2 hours before, and I would just have feelings of dread every time. Hi everyone, Max here from Muscle World. Welcome to today's video. I am here today answering your questions. The question I get asked regularly is, what was the best thing or what was the worst thing about Royal Marines recruit training? I've compiled a video today where I'm going to talk about the 3 best things and the 3 worst things. This is subjective, so this is all in my opinion based on my experiences. Individual experiences may vary. I just want to share with you what I believe to be the 3 best things of recruit training and then the 3 worst things. Starting off at number 1, it's not what you think. Number 1 best thing about Royal Marines recruit training was being wet, cold, tired and exhausted all the time. Like, you are literally wet and cold all the time. Now, hear me out. Have I got the list wrong? Max, I've got the list wrong, you're saying to me. No. You are literally wet and cold the whole time, so much so you actually get used to it, and it toughens you up. Like, I really felt that being kind of exposed to that type of environment, being exposed to being wet, cold, tired, in the dark, and having to dig deep within myself to push myself to keep going, I think that really had a massive benefit on my life. Looking back on things, at the time, yeah, it was crap, it was dog shit. But I do believe that it really fundamentally changed me and put me in a better position, stronger position to, 1, appreciate being warm and dry, appreciate what I got, but also when the time comes of being, out and about, out in the elements, times getting tough, times get hard, having that little bit of an extra kind of thick skin, I find has really been helpful later on down the line. Yep, you go from being wet and cold, like wet and dry routine, yeah, it sucks. To get in your sleeping bag, you've got to take your wet clothes off, put your dry clothes on, and you get your sleeping bag. That is the best feeling in the world, and you get used to sleeping anywhere. And to be fair, I had some of the best night's sleep of my life out in the middle of Woodbury Common. Tend to see things a little bit differently to people, and I don't want to just do the standard, yeah, the best thing about the Marines is shooting guns. Looking back on things, I think there were other things that were actually better and more fun, more exciting, and actually I was able to develop upon myself and were actually more rewarding for me. Second best thing I found about Royal Marines recruit training was just new experiences. In my experience then, I kind of, well, I'd not long left school. I had been living in the same town. I had started doing a little bit of work, so I had been working full time. I'd been doing my own little training. I'd been doing my own studying. I'd been in a punk band. I'd done a few kind of normal things that teenagers generally tend to do. But then you go to the Marines and suddenly you're thrown out into this completely different world. Well, all your mates are going off and they're going to uni, or they're just staying at home, or they're going off and working in some job. The experiences that I was doing, I just don't think that people can actually kind of quantify it or even conceive what we were going off and doing at such a young age. And it's difficult to say in a video, it's difficult to try and explain. Bombing around in boats, that was great. You're booting down doors, you're jumping out of helicopters, you're throwing grenades, and it's just really good fun. It's just the stuff you're doing, the fitness you're doing, the access to the fitness facilities we had back then. We were doing rope climbing, we were using all these different apparatus and kit that I've never even seen in gyms before or since. So I just think that, yeah, there's a lot going on. We're traveling around the country mainly, and obviously, after training, traveled around the world and just got to experience loads of, even more amazing things then, which I never would have experienced without having joined her. And at number 3, you're constantly learning. I felt I learned so much, and not just what I was taught. I mean, yeah, that was great, the stuff they teach you was great, but I found there was a lot of kind of other things. When I went there, I met people from different backgrounds, different cultures. I'd never met Geordies or Scousers or many people from Scotland. I grew up in Wales, I never met any of these people. Meeting people from Ireland, I couldn't understand what they were saying, but then I learned what they were saying. I gradually, the more time I spent around them, the more I understood them. And also observations about things like fitness. So I learned a lot just from kind of reflecting on what happened in training, on the training program they were putting us through, and the types of sessions they were delivering us, and how we were responding. And I felt I learned a lot from that. If you learn about being outdoors and survival and the human body, and how the human body responds to different extreme kind of climates and events, and how we can cope with that. So I just feel I learned a lot from recruit training and Royal Marines in general, and I just think that they're very helpful in kind of things I want to do later on in life, and things that I'd like to still do in the future. So I really do think it kind of, it does develop you as a person if you want it to. Even if you don't realise it, even if people don't realise it, it does. And it's only when you kind of look back and you talk to people and who've not gone through this process, like they've never kind of stepped out of their town, they've never stepped out of their comfort zone, they've never kind of been through something like this, and just through talking to them, and there's simple things that I think might be simple that they would know, I find I'm having to explain them to them, or they don't know. They know about other things that I don't know about, like, you know, they know about popular culture and fashion and stuff like that. I ain't got a clue. So I just find it's just different interests, and in terms of what my interests are, you know, fitness, being outdoors, and very grateful for what I was taught and what I observed and learned throughout my duration in training. On to the worst. Now, I'm not going to talk about, like, you know, individual things, like individual thrashings or beastings, because, like, that's just what happens. So I've actually thought long and hard about the 3 kind of worst things, and I've written down a little bit of a list, and I scrolled them out and put other things down. And, you know, I had Elson duty on there at one point, and I took that off and I put something else on there instead. So I'm going to say number 1, for me, the worst thing was bottom field. And the reason I say this is, I mean, you know, I love training, I love fitness, I love pushing myself now. So I find it so hard for me to say that back then I was literally terrified of bottom field. I used to dread it. It'd be like the morning of bottom field. You had a session at 9 a.m. off the top of my head. You know, for like the 2 hours beforehand, I would just have feelings of dread every time. Oh my god, I got bottom field coming up now, and you're getting ready to go, and then you've got to go to the toilet, and then you're on your way out again, you think, oh, quickly run to the toilet again, and you just constantly feel like you need to go to the toilet. That's what I found anyway. Yeah, it was just real nervous, and it's really strange looking back on it. I don't know if that's how I'd be now. I wasn't always passing things. I've struggled on a lot of things with bottom field, at the ropes, regains, and something was failing on. I think because every single time you went there, you know, things picked up a level. They would always put something new to challenge you, to push you, and you're kind of caught off guard. I mean, sometimes you would just have quite a fairly easy session. I won't say easy session, a standard session. You might just do a few things, but other times they would just, they just seem to beast you for what felt like hours beforehand, and then you do your salt course and your rope climbs and your vitamins carries and your regain. Other times they seem to do it in different orders, and for some reason it just filled me with dread. So much so that even just taking the train from, say, Exeter to Limestone, the train would go past along the coast, it would go alongside the bottom field where the assault course is, and just looking at the assault course and, you know, feeling myself coming back, I just think, you'd just be like, oh my god, I don't want to go back. It was just feelings of dread. It's hard to explain that. It always felt dark, and but for those of you who don't know, bottom field is what it's called, military fitness training. So it is, you know, it's where you're doing your assault courses, you're doing your rope climbs, and it is kind of like you get sort of in the middle of training after you've done your your basic fitness training in the gym. It is good fitness, it is good training, and it's what it's all about at the end of the day. I think when I failed a couple of things, like initially, like the rope climb, for example, and it didn't help that I had shin splints quite badly at that point, so that probably was a factor, was that, you know, it was hurting just to run to the bottom field, let alone actually do the session. So that could have been a factor on my end as well. Possibly more of a self-preservation sort of thing, I guess, actually, because I just didn't want it to get worse. Because in my head was like, if it gets worse, I'm going to get kicked out or I'm going to get back trooped. So I think that was kind of like the main factor for me anyway, rather than me being scared of a little bit of hard work. But I was a lot younger then. I'd love to say to myself, you know, well, there's a big spider over there. I'd love to say to myself, you know, go back and just embrace it, you know, because it is what it is. It does end, and it's, you know, got some good memories, and it is good training, good fitness. And civvies would literally pay thousands to do it. I'd love to go back and do it again. If anyone's watching this and they say, look, Max, you can come back and do bottom field, do a bottom field session again, you know, I'll bite your hand off for it. Second worst thing for me then was you're out on a field exercise, middle of the night, soaking wet, freezing cold, and you've got to get up, you're getting woken up for sentry duty. Sentry duty is basically where you just kind of crawl off to the edge of your, you know, where you're staying, and the troop harbour is called. You crawl off and you lie on the floor with your mate, and the two of you just sit there for an hour and just stare into the darkness, hoping that nobody comes, and if somebody does come, then you've got to challenge them, and then next thing you know, there'll be a bit of a, you might get bumped and have to run off or whatever. Just became a bit kind of naff when somebody would wake you up. But, you know, at the end of the day, that is part of being a soldier, and you know, you've got to do it. And when you pass out with training, you've still got to do it when you go out on operations. So just embrace it, get used to it. Kind of goes on to my very first point, where I actually says, this is the best thing about training, is you're like, oh, Max, you're contradicting yourself now. Yeah, I am, okay, but it was crap at the time, what can I say? I like my sleep. Who likes getting woken up in the middle of the night to go and put your wet clothes on and go and lie on the floor and shiver for an hour? Finally, the last thing I want to mention, and bear in mind this is all going from memory, at the time it may have changed. I was in like 16 years ago, so third thing for me then was the cleaning, the kit musters in the field, the inspections, and the inevitable get on the flank glover. Yeah, okay, I was a bit of a flank ranger. That was just a pain in the ass because spend ages cleaning your kit, you do your best, and then next thing you know they find a random speck of muck or a speck of dust in your rifle barrel, and then you're on the flank getting beasted and you're wet and cold and you're crawling on the floor and you've got sand in your combat jacket and you're just not happy, and then you've got to go get cleaning again so you go for the next inspection. So it just makes it worse. Get it right first time. Sounds simple enough, but happens to the best of us. What can we say? Anyway guys, let me know if you've been through training. What was your top 3 and worst 3? Pop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you've got any questions, anything you want to ask me, because I am trying to answer as many questions as I can. I'm getting a hell of a lot in these comments and it's fantastic. I'm trying to respond. I'll either respond in the comment, or if I find it interesting enough, I'll respond in a video. Thank you very much for watching. There's a couple of videos here. Make sure you're watching them. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the bell notification so you don't miss a video. MaxGlover.com for training and programs. See you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.